A black woman was forcibly removed from a first-class seat by the pilot himself after a white passenger complained she looked suspicious sitting near the cockpit. I'm the captain of this aircraft, and I'm ordering you to deplane immediately. You're making my crew and passengers uncomfortable. The pilot nodded to two security officers who grabbed her arms and began dragging her down the aisle while passengers recorded on their phones in stunned silence. Dr. Veronica Hayes, a federal aviation safety inspector, felt humiliation burn through her chest as her briefcase fell open, scattering government documents across the cabin floor. The pilot, Captain Derek Brennan, stood at the cockpit door with his arms crossed and a smug expression, wearing his authority-like armor, convinced no one would question his judgment. What he didn't know was that one phone call from this woman would ground his career, shut down the flight, and trigger a federal investigation that would expose everything he'd been hiding. Dr. Veronica Hayes was settling into Seat 2B when it started. United Flight 1634, Newark to Houston. Morning departure. Business as usual. She'd flown this route 100 times. As a Federal Aviation Administration safety inspector, she practically lived on airplanes, sometimes in uniform, sometimes undercover, always observing. Today was supposed to be routine. She had her laptop open, reviewing safety compliance reports for Region 6 airlines. 4 to 5 years old, 20 years with the FAA, one of the highest-ranking black women in federal aviation oversight. She'd earned her seat at every table. But that didn't matter to the white woman in 2A. Linda Crowley, mid-50s, blonde, dripping in designer labels, kept glancing at Veronica, first with curiosity, then suspicion, then outright hostility. "Excuse me," Linda said, leaning into the aisle. "Flight attendant." A young attendant named Jessica approached. "Yes, Linda lowered her voice, but not enough. "I don't feel comfortable sitting next to..." Veronica looked up from her laptop, already knowing where this was going. Jessica looked confused. "I'm sorry." She keeps looking toward the cockpit. She's been typing on her computer. She has all these documents. It doesn't feel right. Veronica closed her eyes, taking a slow breath. "Here we go again." Jessica glanced at Veronica, clearly uncomfortable. This passenger hasn't done anything inappropriate. "I'm telling you something feels wrong. I'm a platinum member. I fly 50 times a year. I know when something's off." Veronica spoke calmly. "I assure you." "I wasn't talking to you," Linda snapped. Veronica's jaw tightened. Jessica shifted nervously. Let me get the lead flight attendant." She walked away quickly. Linda pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. Veronica returned to her wake, trying to ignore the rising tension in her chest. She'd been here before, flying while black, existing while black in spaces white people thought belonged only to them. But usually it ended with an apology, a voucher, an uncomfortable conversation. She never expected the pilot to get involved. But this was only the beginning. 5 minutes later, a man in a captain's uniform strode down the aisle. Captain Derek Brennan, early 50s, square jaw, graying temples, the kind of swagger that comes from 30 years of unchecked authority. He stopped at row 2, looked at Linda. "I understand there's a concern." Linda's entire demeanor changed, soft, vulnerable, afraid. "Captain, thank you for coming. I'm nervous. This woman keeps looking at the cockpit. She's got all these papers, and she won't explain what she's doing." "I don't owe you an explanation," Veronica said evenly. Derek's eyes cut to her. "Actually, if a passenger feels unsafe, I need to address it. She feels unsafe because I'm black and she's racist." Linda gasped. "How dare you?" Derek said to Veronica, his voice hardening. "I'm going to need you to step off the aircraft so we can sort this out." Veronica stared at him. "Excuse me." "It's just temporary. We'll verify everything, and if there's no issue, you can reboard." "If there's no issue? I haven't done anything wrong." "Then stepping off shouldn't be a problem." Veronica felt her pulse spike. "I'm not getting off this plane." Derek's expression went cold. "I'm the captain. I have the authority to remove any passenger I deem a threat to safety." A threat? I've been sitting here working quietly. And now you're being non-compliant, which reinforces a concern. This is racial profiling. This is aviation security. Veronica's hands trembled with rage. I want your name and employee number. Captain Derek Brennan, employee 47,283. Now, are you going to deplane voluntarily, or do I need to call security? Veronica looked around the cabin. Passengers watched with a mixture of discomfort and curiosity. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked away. Call security, Veronica said, because I'm not moving. Derek's jaw tightened. He pulled out his radio. Gate services. This is Captain Brennan. I need security to Gate 42 immediately. Disruptive passenger refusing to comply. Veronica's vision blurred with fury and humiliation. She'd flown thousands of miles. She'd inspected hundreds of flights. She'd written safety protocols that protected millions of passengers. And now she was being removed like a criminal because a racist woman felt uncomfortable. What she didn't know was who was watching. 2 airport security officers boarded within minutes. Both white men. Both already looking at Veronica like she was a problem. The first officer said, "We need you to come with us." "I haven't done anything wrong." "We understand, but the captain has requested you deplane." "The captain is racially profiling me based on a passenger's unfounded complaint." The second officer stepped closer. "We can do this easy or hard." Veronica felt tears of rage pricking her eyes. She would not cry. She would not give them that. "Fine," she said, her voice shaking. "I'll go. But this isn't over." She reached for her briefcase. That's when Derek spoke up again. "Officers, I need you to escort her off. She's been confrontational, and I'm concerned about her state of mind." "My state of mind?" Veronica's voice rose. "You've humiliated me, accused me of being a threat, and now you're questioning my mental stability." Lower your voice." "I will not lower my voice. This is discrimination. This is—" One of the officers grabbed her arm. "Don't touch me." Veronica yanked away. The second officer grabbed her other arm. They lifted her from her seat. Veronica's briefcase fell, contents spilling everywhere. FAA documents, safety reports, her government-issued credentials. A passenger gasped. "Wait, is she—" But the officers were already dragging Veronica down the aisle. She didn't resist, didn't fight, just let them pull her toward the exit while her professional life scattered across the cabin floor. Linda Crowley watched with a satisfied smile. Captain Brennan returned to the cockpit without a backward glance. And Veronica Hayes, respected federal inspector, decorated professional, dignified black woman, was escorted off the plane like a common criminal. Be honest, what would you have done? They took her to an airport security office, sat her in a plastic chair, treated her like a suspect. "We need to ask you some questions." "I want my belongings first," Veronica said. "Everything that fell from my briefcase." "We'll retrieve them." "Now, those are federal documents. They're confidential." The officers exchanged glances. One left to get her things. Veronica sat there, hands shaking, trying to control her breathing. 20 years. 20 years of excellence, of integrity, of service, and she'd just been dragged off a plane like a terrorist. The officer returned with her briefcase and its contents, hastily gathered. Veronica checked everything. Her laptop, her reports, her identification, her FAA credentials. The officer's face went pale when he saw them. You're an FAA inspector." Veronica looked him dead in the eye. "Yes, I'm Dr. Veronica Hayes, Senior Aviation Safety Inspector for the Federal Aviation Administration, Region 6. And you just removed me from an A-craft based on racial profiling." "We didn't know. You didn't ask." She pulled out her phone, scrolled to a contact, Director James Whitfield, FAA Regional Administrator, her direct supervisor. She pressed call. He answered on the second ring. "Veronica." "Jim, I need you to ground United Flight 1634 out of Newark. Immediately." Silence. What happened? I was removed from the aircraft by the pilot based on a racially motivated passenger complaint. I'm currently being detained by airport security at Newark. The pilot, Captain Derek Brennan, violated multiple protocols, and I'm initiating a formal investigation. She heard Jim typing furiously. Are you safe? Physically, yes. Professionally and personally humiliated, but safe. I'm grounding the flight now. Don't say anything else until our legal team gets there. I'm sending Harper and Martinez. They'll be there in 20 minutes. Thank you. She hung up, looked at the security officers. That flight isn't going anywhere. If only she knew who she was talking to. 20 minutes later, Agent Rebecca Harper and Agent Louis Martinez, FAA enforcement officers, walked into the security office, both in suits, both carrying federal badges, both very, very angry. Dr. Hayes, Rebecca said, "Are you all right?" "I've been better." Louis turned to the security officers. "We need all documentation related to this incident. Radio calls, witness statements, video footage. Everything. We were just following the pilot's orders." The pilot doesn't have the authority to remove an FAA inspector conducting oversight. And even if he did, he violated protocol by not verifying her credentials before removal. Rebecca sat beside Veronica. Walked me through exactly what happened. Veronica told them everything. Linda's complaint, Derek's immediate assumption of threat, the refusal to listen, the forcible removal. By the time she finished, Louis was on the phone with the airport director. Rebecca's face was stone-cold fury. "That flight is grounded pending investigation," Rebecca said. "And Captain Brennan is about to have the worst day of his career." Veronica felt a small spark of satisfaction. But mostly, she felt exhausted. "I just want to go home." "We'll get you there," Rebecca promised. "But first, we need your formal statement. And then we're going to make sure this never happens to you or anyone else again." But here's the part that changed everything. Twist number 1, the identity reveal. Back at Gate 42, Captain Derek Brennan stood in the jetway, annoyed. The flight had been delayed. No explanation given. Just hold for ground operations. He checked his watch. They were already 30 minutes behind schedule. His phone rang. United Operations. "Captain Brennan, you're being removed from Flight 1634 effective immediately." Derek's stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "The passenger you removed was Dr. Veronica Hayes. She's a senior FAA safety inspector. The flight is grounded pending federal investigation." The phone nearly slipped from Derek's hand. "She's what?" "An FAA inspector. The woman you just had dragged off your aircraft is a person who certifies whether you're fit to fly." Derek's face went white. "I didn't know. She didn't identify herself." "She's not required to. You, however, are required to verify claims before removing passengers. You didn't. Now there's a federal investigation, and you're grounded pending review." The line went dead. Derek stood there, frozen. An FAA inspector. He'd just removed an FAA inspector from his flight. The same FAA that controlled his license, his certifications, his entire career. Behind him, passengers were getting restless. "What's the delay? Why aren't we moving? I have a connection to make." Derek walked back onto the plane, looked at Linda Crowley, sitting smugly in 2A. This was her fault. Her paranoid, racist complaint had just torpedoed his career. He wanted to scream at her, but he couldn't, because ultimately he'd made the choice. He'd seen a black woman and assumed threat. He'd listened to a white woman's concern without question. He'd abused his authority. And now, he was going to pay for it. Would you have stayed quiet in her position? Within 2 hours, the story was everywhere. FAA inspector dragged off United flight after pilot believes racist passenger complaint. Black aviation expert removed from plane she's certified to inspect. United Airlines faces federal investigation after pilot removes FAA inspector. The videos went viral. Passengers had recorded everything. Veronica being confronted. Derek refusing to listen. The officers dragging her away. Her briefcase spilling. The FAA credentials scattering across the floor. The internet exploded. Aviation experts called it career suicide. Civil rights attorneys called it textbook discrimination. Airlines scrambled to distance themselves. United CEO issued a statement. We are cooperating fully with the FAA investigation and have placed Captain Brennan on administrative leave. We apologize to Dr. Hayes and are reviewing our protocols. But apologies weren't enough. Not this time. The FAA launched a formal investigation, not just into Derek, but into United's entire complaint response system. How many other passengers had been removed without cause? How many complaints were based on racial bias? How many pilots had abused their authority? Dr. Veronica Hayes became the face of a movement, but she never asked for it. She just wanted to do her job and be treated with basic respect. And just when things seemed calm, the real story came out. 1 week into the investigation, FAA enforcement discovered something disturbing. Captain Derek Brennan had a history. Over the past 8 years, he'd filed 17 reports of disruptive passengers. 14 of them were people of color. 11 were removed from flights. None resulted in arrests or charges. Because none had actually been disruptive. They'd just been black, brown, Asian, or Muslim passengers who made white passengers uncomfortable. And Derek had backed the white passengers every single time. One case involved a black doctor heading to a medical conference. Another involved a Latina businesswoman. Another involved a Sikh man wearing a turban. All removed, all humiliated, all profiled. But here's the truly damning part. 3 years ago, a complaint had been filed against Derek by a flight attendant named Monica Reeves, a black woman who'd witnessed him remove a black teenager for acting suspicious. The teenager had been reading a book. Monica reported it to United's HR. The complaint was investigated and buried. Derek received a warning, mandatory diversity training, and then he kept flying, kept profiling, kept abusing his power. When the FAA discovered this, they didn't just go after Derek. They went after United's entire management structure. Who knew about the complaints? Who buried them? Who allowed a pilot with a clear pattern of discrimination to keep flying? The investigation expanded, and the consequences intensified. If only they knew what was coming next. Dr. Veronica Hayes sat in a federal building in Washington, D.C., giving her deposition. Across from her, United's legal team, the airline's VP of operations, and their head of HR. All of them looked terrified. The FAA's lead investigator, Director Sarah Chen, led the questioning. Dr. Hayes, in your professional opinion, did Captain Brennan follow proper protocol when removing you from Flight 1634? No, Veronica said clearly. He did not verify the complaint. He did not ask for my identification. He did not attempt de-escalation. He made an immediate judgment based on a passenger's subjective claim and his own biases. And in your 20 years as an aviation safety inspector, how many similar incidents have you observed or investigated? Hundreds. Hundreds. Yes, passengers of color being removed, questioned, or detained based on vague complaints about suspicious behavior or making other passengers uncomfortable. It's a systemic issue. United's lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Sarah continued, and based on your expertise, what impact does this have on aviation safety? It undermines it, Veronica said. When pilots make decisions based on bias rather than evidence, when airlines prioritize the comfort of prejudiced passengers over the rights of paying customers, it creates an environment of fear and mistrust. It also distracts from actual security threats. Can you elaborate? While Captain Brennan was busy profiling me, a federal inspector, he wasn't focused on actual pre-flight safety checks. He wasn't monitoring legitimate concerns. He was acting on racism. That's not just discriminatory. It's dangerous. The room was silent. Sarah looked at United's VP. Do you have anything to say? The VP cleared his throat. We're committed to doing better. Better? Veronica's voice cut through like ice. You had 3 years to do better. You had a complaint from a flight attendant about Captain Brennan's behavior. You buried it. You let him keep flying. You let him keep profiling passengers. And now you're committed to doing better? Dr. Hayes, we didn't have all the information. You had enough. You just didn't care. The VP went silent. Sarah closed a folder. This deposition is complete. The FAA will be issuing findings within 30 days. But here's the part that changed everything. 2 weeks later, someone unexpected came forward. Linda Crowley, the woman who'd made the initial complaint. She called a press conference. Veronica watched it from her office. Stunned, Linda stood at a podium, looking uncomfortable and ashamed. "I want to apologize to Dr. Veronica Hayes," Linda said, voice shaking. "What I did on that flight was wrong. I made assumptions based on race. I let fear and prejudice guide my actions, and I caused incredible harm to an innocent woman." She paused, wiping tears. "I've spent the last 2 weeks in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. And the truth is, I've been conditioned my whole life to see black people as threats, to see people of color as suspicious. And I never questioned it until I saw myself on those videos, until I saw what I'd done." Linda looked directly into the camera. "Dr. Hayes, I am so sorry. You deserve better. And I'm committed to doing the work to make sure I never cause harm like that again." Veronica sat back in her chair. She didn't know how to feel. Angry, vindicated, exhausted, all of it. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Dr. Hayes? Linda Crowley is on the phone. She's asking if she can speak with you directly." Veronica stayed at the phone. She could refuse. She had every right to refuse. But something in Linda's apology had felt real, broken, ashamed, genuine. "Put her through," Veronica said. The line clicked. "Dr. Hayes." Linda's voice was small. "Thank you for taking my call. I don't deserve your time, but I needed to say this directly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Veronica took a breath. "I appreciate your apology, Mrs. Crowley, but apologies don't undo harm. They are just beginning. I know, and I want to do more. I want to help. I'll testify. I'll speak publicly. Whatever you need." "What I need," Veronica said slowly, "is for you to understand that what you did to me happens to black people every single day. On planes, in stores, in schools, at work. We're constantly seen as threats, as suspicious, as out of place. And it's exhausting. I understand." "Do you?" "Because understanding means action. It means examining every assumption, every reflex, every moment you feel uncomfortable around someone who doesn't look like you." "I'm trying," Linda whispered. "I promise I'm trying." Veronica softened slightly. "Then keep trying, and use your voice to challenge others when you see them doing what you did." "I will." They hung up. Veronica sat in the silence of her office. She didn't forgive Linda. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she appreciated the accountability. It was more than most people ever offered. And just when things seemed settled, the final reckoning began. 30 days later, the FAA released its findings. Captain Derek Brennan, pilot's license permanently revoked. The report detailed his pattern of discrimination, his abuse of authority, and his failure to follow protocol. He was banned from flying commercial aircraft. His career, over. United Airlines, $4.5 million fine for systemic discrimination and failure to address complaints. The airline was also required to implement mandatory anti-bias training for all crew members, create an independent passenger complaint review board, revise protocol for removing passengers to require supervisor approval, publicly report all passenger removal incidents quarterly. Monica Reeves, the flight attendant who'd reported Derek 3 years ago, was promoted to lead diversity and inclusion officer. Her first act, contacting every passenger Derek had wrongfully removed and offering formal apologies and compensation. The FAA also created a new initiative, the Hayes Protocol, named after Veronica, a comprehensive framework for addressing bias in aviation, protecting passengers from discrimination, and holding airlines accountable. It became the industry standard. Airlines across the country adopted it. And Veronica Hayes, the woman who'd been dragged off a plane for doing nothing wrong, became the architect of systemic change. 6 months later, Veronica received a letter from Derek Brennan. She almost threw it away, but curiosity won. She opened it. "Dr. Hayes, I don't expect you to read this, I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to write it anyway. What I did to you was inexcusable. I abused my authority. I acted on bias. I humiliated you, and I'm sorry. Losing my license destroyed me, but it also woke me up. For the first time in my life, I had to face what I'd done, not just to you, but to every passenger I profiled over the years. I've started volunteering with a racial justice organization. I'm doing the work, really doing it, not to get my license back. I know that's gone, but to try to become a better person. I know that doesn't fix what I did, but I wanted you to know that your courage changed me, and I hope it changes others too. Derek Brennan. Veronica read the letter twice. Then she put it in a drawer. She didn't respond. She didn't owe him that, but she kept the letter as a reminder that accountability, real accountability, could lead to transformation, even if it came too late. 1 year after the incident, Veronica boarded a flight. United, Newark to Houston. Same route. She'd been assigned to inspect it as part of her regular duties. As she settled into her seat, first class, 2B, a flight attendant approached. A young black woman with a warm smile. Dr. Hayes? Veronica looked up. I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a new flight attendant, and because of what you did, because of the Hayes protocol, I feel safe doing this job. I know there are protections now. I know I have support if I face discrimination. The young woman's eyes glistened. You changed everything for us. Thank you. Veronica felt emotion swell in her chest. What's your name? Jasmine. Jasmine, thank you for what you do. And remember, if anyone ever makes you feel small, you stand tall. You belong here. Jasmine nodded, smiling through tears, and walked away. Veronica sat back. The plane prepared for takeoff. And for the first time in a year, she felt something close to peace. That night, Veronica wrote in her journal, a practice she'd started after the incident, on her therapist's recommendation. A year ago, I was dragged off a plane for existing while black, for sitting in a seat I'd paid for doing my job, for being present in a space someone else decided I didn't belong. I could have stayed quiet, taken the settlement, moved on, but I didn't, because silence doesn't protect us. It protects the systems that harm us. So I spoke up. I fought back. I demanded accountability. And it cost me my peace, my privacy, my sense of safety. But it gained something too. It gained justice, change, protection for others. Every black woman who flies without being questioned. Every person of color who's treated with dignity. Every airline employee who knows they'll be held accountable for discrimination. That's the legacy, not the humiliation, not the pain, the change. And I'd do it all again. She closed the journal and whispered a prayer her grandmother taught her. Lord, give me the strength to stand when I want to fall, the courage to speak when I want to hide, and the wisdom to know that my dignity is worth fighting for. 18 months after the incident, Dr. Veronica Hayes testified before the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. The topic, discrimination in air travel. Senators from both parties sat before her. Cameras recorded every word. Thank you for being here, Dr. Hayes. The committee chair said, can you tell us what happened to you on United Flight 1634? Veronica took a breath and told her story, not with anger, not with bitterness, with dignity. When she finished, the room was silent. Then one senator, a black woman from Georgia, spoke. Dr. Hayes, what would you say to other black women who face similar discrimination but don't have your resources or platform? Veronica looked directly into the camera. I would say, your dignity is non-negotiable. Your presence is not a privilege. It's a right. And when someone tries to make you small, you stand tall. You document. You report. You demand accountability. Because you are not the problem. The system is. And we change the system by refusing to accept it. The gallery erupted in applause. The hearing concluded, and Veronica walked out of that chamber knowing she'd done something her grandmother would be proud of. She'd turned pain into power, humiliation into history, and personal injustice into systemic change. Dr. Veronica Hayes' removal from that plane wasn't an anomaly. It was a pattern. A pattern of black women being told we don't belong, being questioned in spaces we've earned, being removed from places we paid to occupy, being treated as threats instead of travelers, as problems instead of people. But here's what they don't understand. We are not intimidated by their authority. We are not silenced by their comfort. We are not moved by their fear. Because we know who we are. We know what we've built. We know what we deserve. And when they try to drag us off the plane, literally or figuratively, we don't just fight for our seat. We fight for the system. We make one phone call that changes everything. We transform our pain into policy, our humiliation into history, our silence into a voice that echoes through courtrooms and boardrooms and Senate chambers. Veronica didn't just get justice for herself. She got it for every black woman who's ever been told to move to the back, to lower her voice, to accept less, to disappear. We don't disappear. We rise. We speak. We change the entire system that tried to erase us. That's the legacy. That's the lesson. And that's why we never stop fighting. Because our dignity is not up for debate. Our humanity is not conditional. Our right to exist in every space, from first class to the C-suite to the halls of power, is absolute. And when they try to remove us, we don't just resist. We revolutionize. If this story spoke to your soul, drop a comment. Have you ever been removed from a space you had every right to occupy? How did you respond? And if you believe that black women's dignity is non-negotiable, that our presence is powerful and our voices can change systems, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this channel isn't just about stories. It's about truth. It's about justice. It's about reminding every black woman watching that you don't have to accept mistreatment. You don't have to stay silent. You don't have to make yourself smaller to fit into spaces designed to exclude you. Stand tall. Make the call. Change everything. We're in this together, and your dignity is worth defending. Welcome to the family.